Gotta be twice as good to get half they got. Mama told me young who I was, they thought that we forgot. Born kids and quiz, do your research and you can see the plot. Damn, say we watching our people die by these crooked cops. Freddie Gray, say his name. Sandra Bland, say her name. Seville Smith, say his name. Jay Anderson, say his name. Breonna Taylor, say her name. George Lacevedo, say his name. George Floyd, say his name. That's a damn. This a new day coming from the bottom. Had to get it, scream no justice, no peace, and I'm with it. We'll tear it all down so we can finally get up. Put your right fist in the air, you rockin' with us. 100 years we've been fighting, but we still here. Since 55 we've been marching, but we still here. They said you cold, been gone, but we still here. But we still here, yeah, we still here. King had a dream I got to live when I went to school. Malcolm taught me.
To at home can stay in tune with the revolution. Today we have two very, very, very special guests. Powerful guests. Yeah, Randy, you said it right. Powerful,
informative.
What? So today we have State Representative David Bowen.
Cause then
Give a clap on that, bro.
the button.
And then they gonna give you clap.
We fancy.
Sound effects.
You
Y'all
know.
got sound effects. Okay, honor is mine. Honor is
Isaiah
mine.
Thomas Holmes.
That's a basketball player.
It could be Isaiah Thomas.
You know what I was thinking? I was thinking of Isaiah Thomas.
The basketball player.
I was. Holmes, that's right. So what we gonna do today is we gonna make sure that
Give him the button, too.
we gonna make sure y'all at home. We gonna find out what it is that Isaiah Holmes does that's so powerful, and what it is that State Representative David Bowen does that is so powerful. DB, that's what we call David Bowen. We call him DB.
Hey man, everybody's calling me DB.
Man, let's just
You should be like the closest people to me, and then the family grew,
Uh-huh.
the circle grew.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then even our opposition's calling me. They calling me DB, and I'm
They
like,
using the
it's a
nickname.
David to you.
It's
David
it's
to you.
Mr.
It's Mr. David.
Yeah, man. So,
Yeah.
so what's up? What's up?
So let's just jump right into it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You're a state rep.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that a state representative
At a
does?
young age.
For his constituents, for our people.
Right. Well, let me give a shout out to Andrew Douglas Middle School. We're speaking to those young people this morning. Claps for them. Speaking to them on Google Meet this morning with their principal and teachers, and we were talking about this exact question: what does a state representative do? Essentially, I am an elected official. I represent 57,000 people across the 10th district.
What?
And I had to compete in the election against three other candidates. So it was a four-way race. We won the primary back in 2014 by about 54% on both sides of the district. So so it was like, okay. It was done by then. So then you have to govern. You have to be a policymaker. You have to vote on policy. You have to determine what is the proper direction for your community to go in and work with. In the assembly, 98 other colleagues. So there are 99 members of the state assembly. That's one side of the house. And then you have 33 members in the Senate. So that's the other side of the house.
Mhm.
If I want a bill passed, I see legislation that has to be changed. I have to pass it in my part of the house and then also in their part.
Okay.
So if it can pass both parts, then the bill goes to the governor. The governor has a chance to say, hey, I like this bill, I'm gonna sign it.
Mm-hmm.
Or he could say, I don't like this bill, I'm gonna veto it.
Mm-hmm.
So if he vetoes it, then it comes back to my house and then we gotta re-vote again, right? So then I gotta get 2/3 vote, not just a simple majority of 51. I have to get or 50, I have to get a 2/3 vote, and then in the Senate I got to get a 2/3 vote.
Okay.
Then it goes into law automatically, whether the governor wanted it or not.
Cool.
So, essentially, I vote on all types of things that affect your everyday life. If I'm a state rep, I'm not really focused on your trash like your alderman,
Mhm.
or your neighborhood services like your alderman is.
Uh-huh.
I'm not really focused on your parks or your transit system like your county supervisor is. And I'm not as focused in the day-to-day operations of schools like your school board is.
Uh-huh.
But at the state, I vote on things at let's call it the 30,000 foot level up top that affects all those funding.
Get your flex on.
We got state facilities, highways that we're investing in, correctional facilities that we run. Taxes, that's a big one. Big shouts out to everybody with Public Allies out there. Public Allies has a building I'm working on where their education award, we're trying to get that tax exempted because it's about a $10,000 allocation, right, that they get. And right now they'll get taxed just like somebody really came and gave them $10,000. That's not how it works. So we're trying to get them an exception. Is that a game show bell? That was cold. What was that?
that was
new.
Wake 'em up.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
essentially, and it's so versatile at the state that we'll end up voting on some type of policy that's going to affect you. So that's why it's important for people to pay attention.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's most definitely a hard job, is what it sounds like.
Yeah.
It sounds
yeah.
like you gotta keep going through the same people, and then you gotta, I guess, press them, and then go to the next level of different people, and then you might have to press them. So it's like,
The unique thing is that all 98 members don't live in my district,
okay,
right? So there might be some closer members, right? Next door,
Mhm.
I got Representative Drake. I got Representative Maura Makunde. I got Evan Goyke on the other end. I got Jonathan Brustoff on the other end. So they're closer. They might more so relate to some of the things I'm fighting for, things I'm doing. But I got to talk to Representative Schra, who represents a good chunk of where Lincoln Hills is in Irma, Wisconsin, right? That's central Wisconsin. I got to talk to Senator Wangard down in Racine. I got to talk to, a number of different members that their districts look completely different. The people that live there, what it looks like. But at the end of the day, their destiny is tied to ours. Our destiny is tied to theirs. That's what they have to be able to understand. If somebody in 53206 is being criminalized to be pushed towards incarceration, just like, somebody in their end of the state that's dealing with, substance abuse or something like that, and they being pushed towards those things, we have to actually see that, if somebody is in trouble where you at, we should care about it. If somebody's in trouble where I'm at, you should care about it.
Right.
So it's the same exact thing.
Okay.
y'all got the same message, basically.
So you
But
said-
trying to.
Trying
'Cause
to.
they don't always see it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and big ups to Jonathan Brostoff as well. He just he got legislation that he working on to get the ban on police immunity.
Yeah.
So what legislations are you working on
Man, it's so I am
currently? Should I say?
in my fourth term,
Okay.
right? I've done 30 right now. This session, I kind of I've kind of grown in my position. The ranking member on Corrections Committee is an all-out fight for criminal justice reform, period. This session, especially after the protest where, I met you in 2016. I met Destiny, real funny story. I met Destiny in the protest and she had to go to the bathroom. And I was like, cool, I'll take you, so, and to find out oh man, this is an amazing young Black woman. She an activist. She really care about this issue. And lo and behold, been out there every day since, you know what I'm saying? So, y'all have all been tied to these moments, these amazing moments where people continue to step up and fight for justice and show that our community has people that not only care, but they won't stop until it's changed. And what this current cohort of young people that y'all are a part of, and just really intergenerational people that have come forward to fight for change, they have shown that we have to do it, we got to go all out. So I have 30 pieces of legislation in justice reform that we pushed for the last 8 years, and they haven't listened. For the last
said
6
30.
years, this is my
30?
over 30, yeah. So one of those Come on with the sound effects. Come
Telling
on.
you.
One of those they were willing to move forward and vote on and actually pass, but then when it came to actually implementing it, they pulled back. So,
Sounds fun.
you know, if you at the state, like I was at the county level, I could get stuff done. You know what I mean? If I wanted to get bus passes for young people every summer because they, you know, they need access to the transit system and be able to, you know, do their thing when
That's
in
actually
the
a good
workforce
idea.
program.
So they won't be stealing
Did it.
cars, you know?
Did it.
Yeah.
It was like, how much was it? Was it 100,000 or something like that? Anyway, I was like, did it. You know what I mean? Got it passed, talked to my colleagues. Everybody's like, that's a good idea. They voted on it, implemented it, paid for it. It happened.
We love you too,
We
Tiffany.
love you too, Tiffany.
Oh, what up, Tiff? Too tough, Tiff. So we, you know, we did those things at the local level where it's easier to get it done. And then you shift over to the state, it's like pulling teeth sometimes.
Yeah.
It's like running into like just facing a brick wall and it's not talking back to you. It's not responding to you. And you like, yo, listen, we got to do this, this, this. And you get nothing. So it's like, wow. I look back really after I marched with y'all. I had my staff count up all the bills. It wasn't even all of them. This was a chunk of them. And it was like, y'all been blocking us this whole time. You haven't been responding, haven't been engaging with us. You haven't been listening to the pleas of people actually from my district. So now y'all complicit. It's not that y'all don't know what to do. It's not that y'all like, oh man, we just like, we didn't know.
Yeah.
That's what you wanted this whole time?
Yeah.
No. You actually knew what we wanted and you rejected it
Right.
at the end of the day. So, you know, so now it's all out. We're going for justice reform across the board. That's in policing. That's in our youth detention system. That's in our adult system. We're trying to close Lincoln Hills. We're trying to close adult prisons. We're trying to, we're trying to move in a direction where we can save the state money and do new investments into the community, into young people. You know what I mean? So, you know, that's the biggest thing I'm working on, but like, it's too many to name. It's like all across the board.
Yeah.
We are, and the funny thing is, for instance, like juvenile life without parole right now is probably one of the foremost bills that like actually has Republican support and is very likely to get done. The state of Wisconsin, after we're done with this session, will no longer give out sentences to young people without the chance of parole. Because right now they do, you know, and those are really tough crimes. So some of those, like a lot of those, somebody died. A lot of those, they did something to really hurt somebody.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you know, the young people that made those decisions were 13, 15, and they end up being in prison 20 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Longer than they were alive
Right.
when they committed the offense.
Right.
So, you know, their mind development is completely different.
They're
So
still children.
they deserve a second chance. They deserve to be able to prove that they could be contributing members to our community. You know, they could take care of their families and stuff like that. So we're working on that pretty heavy. A number of other ones, man, but like, you know, it's just nonstop right now.
That's what's up. Sarah Smith, she said, can you tell us about the opposed fund police bill, Senate Bill 119?
Opposed fund. Let's Google.
Well, while we Google that, you said you were at Andrew Douglas earlier. Like, you know, when you ask kids, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, no one is going to say, well, it's not often that a kid is going to say a state representative.
Yeah.
At what age did you did you know that that's what you wanted? And then like now when you're educating them on what a state representative is, like, how are you pitching that to them?
All right. So somebody get that bill number that she had. I think it was a 119.
It was 119.
Okay. All right, cool. So funny story. I never planned on being an elected official. Ever.
Yeah.
Now I considered it at a real young age, but it was like, oh, that's something old people do.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Literally. It was like, that ain't for let me consider this when I'm 50. I literally told myself
in
that.
real life.
Yeah. So
What age did you
It's funny because that's real.
What age did you end up getting into politics?
12.
So-
No, I'm just kidding.
literally though, like when I started to notice education was different for Black students than white students in the state.
Yeah.
It was different and I was at Morris Middle School. Shout out to all the Morris Middle School grads.
Okay.
Hey,
You little babies.
so I could tell it was different. The lunches that we got,
yes. What?
the books that we got, how hard they were pushing us compared to certain schools, and they were pushing us hard at Morris.
The artwork at school. Like,
you know what I mean?
walls.
You start to see differences.
Yeah.
And you 11 years old, you 12 years old, 13 years old. So, literally that's when I really got involved because my consciousness was starting to be built at that time. And then in high school, I was participating in Urban Underground, which is a youth leadership organization. Then I started to really get involved. My first protest was they had the opposition to the KKK rally in 2000.
What?
Right? Downtown Milwaukee.
Way back.
KKK that said they were throwing a march here. So all of us as we're young people, we teenagers.
Let's do it.
We we with the opposition. It was the most cracking thing I ever went to.
It was going down on us.
You know what I'm saying? We we across the street, we see they got the hoods on. Listen, it was real. It was the KKK is real.
Yeah.
People really wear hoods.
In Wisconsin.
They really teach their kids that. And you seeing these babies, these children of theirs on the other side, and they cheering them on.
That's
So but with us, we dancing, we beatboxing, we chanting, we got the chants going.
Yeah.
And it's yep, I'm supposed to do this.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when I really got involved.
Yeah.
So then, some of the major things that happened, you had Frank Jude beaten by the Milwaukee Police Department 2004, maybe 2003.
I was in the 7th or the 8th grade or something like that.
That was the biggest march the city has seen since the 60s at that point. So, all of us were out there. And even before that, ironically, Marvin Pratt ran for mayor. So if you know Quabana, if you know Muhib, they was in the streets. And we was out there with them. And we clapped Pratt.
Hey.
It was going on. We in the streets yeah. But we are trying to figure out what is our contribution in politics? What is our contribution to change in our own community? Because we see it deteriorate.
In the streets then.
Bruh. That's where I was. Literally, that's where I was raised. And I just saw, some of the people that I really look up to, the Biko Bakers of the world, Ray Nitty. Y'all know Ray.
Of course.
Wow. Y'all know Reg. These were cats that were they were on the front lines and we were looking up to them wow, if we could be like them, this would be dope.
Yeah.
And then I ended up working for Urban Underground after I almost dropped out of college. I wasn't focused on my studies at all, yo.
You was getting it cracking still.
Too much. Too much. But I went through that phase and it was no, I need to pivot because I think I want to do this thing, but I really am called to do this work. So that's what pulled me into formally get engaged in the work. But it started at a young age. So
basically 11. Yeah. 11.
But even then, I didn't consider actually running for office until 2011. And
I graduated.
Good brother Ian Biddle, he was elected to the Milwaukee County Board. He was gearing up to run for city, so he wanted to be on the city council. And he's like, DB, you should think about doing this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah.
That's for old people.
Nah.
That's for old people.
That's for y'all. We're y'all do that. Y'all get out, make these speeches and stuff. I'm cool in the background. You know what I'm saying? That's where, by that point, we had several campaigns that were successful. Adam Hernandez was being charged with a misdemeanor in Shorewood School District for stealing the lunch. We won that. Got his charges dropped.
That's so crazy.
We saw some major changes in really pushing against the school to prison pipeline and calling that out. It was some things that happened with MPS. I think we stopped. What was it? Some campaign at MPS where they were trying to add I don't even remember. It was so far ago, but it was something about criminalizing students, and we were like, nah, y'all can't do that.
It
was flexi cuffs. I don't know if y'all remember this. This was real young, like a while ago. They were talking about giving them the chance to actually handcuff us with these plastic handcuffs in MPS.
Wow.
So we were fighting that.
Yeah.
We blocked that, so we won that battle.
Uh-huh.
Man, like you just had like these things that we were engaged in, but it wasn't like a formal run for office. So in 2011, I was like, I'm gonna pray on it. Talk to my parents. My parents thought I was crazy.
Really?
Rightfully so. I got Jamaican parents.
Okay.
And like, politics in Jamaica gets crazy.
Yeah.
So they like, yo, you talking about doing what? Oh, yeah, I talk about?
Not the
That's my
accent.
accident. Yeah. So, they came around after they could see like, okay, this is actually something he's good at. And then I don't know, so I ran for office, had a youth team. It's me and like 5 high school students knocking the doors down, talking to everybody. And they're like, wow, y'all young people, we need young blood. We need some like new people in the mix. And like, really were like, oh, I saw you on the news because you did those other things. And I was like, wow, I already was having this reputation in the community being engaged and I didn't even know it.
Yeah.
So when people was telling me about like, you should do it, like you could do it. And I'm like, I can't, people know y'all. Nobody knows me. I'm too scared to speak in front of people, that many people. That's wild.
Yeah.
I could do it. I really could.
Yeah.
And I was literally already doing it. So, that's how things kind of added up. We won that race in 2012. I was the youngest member of the county board. I literally was like on the front end of all the young people starting to run for office. So after I ran, Mandela ran, and Danny Reamer ran, and they were around the same age. Who else was young at the time? Couple years after that.
You still young.
I mean, listen. Like
back then, you was
when you got Kalen Haywood, who's the youngest state rep in the country, and he interned for you.
Yeah,
it's like, bruh, you've been in this thing for a minute. 2022 marks 10 years in government, in elected office, period. And it's like, I wanted to make a lot more change than what we at right now. Like, stuff is still so screwed up. It's like, it's not changing things to the degree that it needs to. But we've inspired like young people all over the country to be able to look at Wisconsin, look at Milwaukee, and they see us fighting day in, day out. That is the dopest part about this. And to be able to see that, like, yeah, you haven't got it yet.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Yeah.
But it's coming.
Yeah.
That's dope.
I'm most definitely inspired by you, DB.
Absolutely.
Oh man.
I want to be an alderman and start at that level because I could do a lot for the community that they do dump the trash in and don't give a fuck about it.
Right.
So
right. Oh, we can cuss on here?
I'm gonna cuss for that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know.
Hey, that was his first time cussing.
Hey, cause it's serious.
So that means you really, if you was that passionate,
that came from here.
You really
That
gotta
came from
do
here.
that.
It wasn't because we was just trying to cuss.
Hey,
No,
ain't no
that's
reneging after that because you meant that.
Yeah, I mean
You
that.
meant that. You gotta do it. You gotta do it.
Right.
I mean that.
You keep saying it, you gotta do it, man.
Right.
Yeah.
So y'all revolution ready. This is dope. Y'all got hoodies. I gotta get a hoodie.
We in the building.
Nice.
So, like, what are like future aspirations that you have, like in government?
I have no idea. And I don't know because now things are different. I used to think like, you just wanted to just keep doing new stuff, keep going higher. But
Darius
now,
said,
what did it say?
Darius said, David going for governor 2022.
22. That's tomorrow, bro. That's tomorrow.
I mean, you gonna already. Did
Hey,
your
you already
10?
gonna have the votes.
You done
when
did your
run.
10 joint already. Time to
protest.
elevate.
Now,
Everybody gonna vote for you.
right,
Everybody
right.
gonna vote for you.
No, what's funny is
And
Hey.
you gotta drop
when
a song.
I hear stuff like that, it's like, yo, if you believe in it, I'm down.
It's time for
Let's do
Tony
I'm down.
Evers to
I'm not
go.
gonna be like, I need to be the person to go do it
yeah.
off top. No, that's not how this works. You have to have people that believe, and if people believe,
You gotta know.
then you could believe.
You got enough people.
But what the difference is now, I used to think like, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that,
Yeah.
and it's completely different. I could in 22 and be like, yo, peace. I did 10 years. Y'all blocked everything I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
Why would I keep doing this if y'all keep putting us in a position, the people I represent, people I fight for, and y'all still not doing it. It got to be another way.
How do you stay
So-
encouraged?
so-
Oh, I'm sorry, Brandon.
No, you good. Y'all, literally.
For real?
Literally.
What are
It's young people of the movement. It's young people, and this was crazy too. It's dope y'all have Isaiah here because
Yes.
he is a leading writer.
What?
Like for like
Journalist.
on the reporter side, on the news side, you have a resurgence of young people in leadership, but you also have a resurgence of young people in positions. And to be able to have someone in a real news position to be able to tell our story or to be able to cover things in a different way. This is completely different than it was in 2000 and even 12 when I started.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's so crazy
We've been
that I've
talking-
seen all of this morph and the assets that y'all got now. And it's not like, because the right-wing people are going to be like, well, he writes for them. No, he actually is independent where like he's writing things from his perspective.
Yeah.
Right. And, when you don't have people who aren't from our community, can't relate to growing up in our community or the experiences of being Black in Wisconsin, being Black in Milwaukee, they are not writing from the same context. They're writing from pretty much the outside looking in. So I remember, y'all, it's so crazy. I don't know why it's coming to my mind now. I remember there were press conferences called every time something bad would happen, and like people would just elected leaders, just berating young people. Like, our young people are failures. We gotta lock them up. You know what I'm saying? Like
Chill.
give them incarceration.
Yeah, like chill out.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was like, yo, you don't see all these amazing young people that are doing well despite the challenges and the odds that likely y'all have put them in.
Exactly.
Right?
Say that.
Do you realize how many success stories still come out of MPS, still come out of Burleigh, still come out of Capitol Drive?
You gotta say that.
You know what I mean? Like, it's insane. So the way that y'all are positioned now, people would say like, man, if Martin Luther King had Twitter, it'd be like, he'd be super cold. Like,
I
y'all
think
got
we
all
would've
that.
ruined it if we had the Underground Railroad back in. Somebody would have went live. In there.
What?
Somebody would have went live.
Somebody
Hey,
would
y'all,
have went live.
look at the Quakers.
these
Look at
Harriet.
Look, bro.
Yo, listen.
Hey, bro, this Harriet, she the one who freeing us.
You know what I'm saying? We going
Harriet
north. You
Tubman.
know what I'm saying? Like, what?
Harriet would have
I
upped
know
that shotgun real quick. You know what I mean? She would have took all the phones. It wouldn't have happened.
It's like,
But-
hey guys, we're at the Northern Marker. Here's what it looks like.
Oh man. Listen, naming
Hey,
people
y'all,
by
we
name.
finna right now.
I got Brandon Wilbur with me.
We finna hide in the stove and go through the basement.
Shout out to
These
Mrs.
the nice
Edna.
white people helping us.
Right.
Say hi. Come on, y'all.
Share her page. Share her page.
The share button.
So y'all have
Hit the share
assets,
button.
but it
Hit
also
the
shows
share
that it can be used the
button.
wrong way. Y'all got some things that can help fuel y'all, but at the same time, there are things that can help make it harder to actually hold the systems that be accountable, because then they start using ammunition from stuff that people are posting, things that some people are doing. It's not reflective of all people, but they use it as if it is. So it's just an interesting time to see the assets that y'all have around y'all.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So since we
Hey, he
you know what I'm
over
saying?
there.
Since we talking about Isaiah, let's bring you in on some questions.
Yeah.
Bring
Isaiah,
him
go
in.
ahead and
Bring him
introduce
in.
yourself. Let them know what it is that you do, what company you work for.
Yeah, so I'm Isaiah Holmes. I work for the Wisconsin Examiner right now. And I've also had, while I work at the Examiner, I'm able to also freelance when I want to. So I've had work in Al Jazeera and The Guardian and other places like that. Very limited, but it's there. You know what I mean? And yeah, in terms of journalism, I write. Obviously, I write articles. Yep, that's how that works.
Oops.
I write articles and I make videos, and there's also a lot of other like skills that I have, like filing open records requests, like figuring out ways to get documents and other stuff like that, and just kind of thinking outside the box with different, kind of things. I've lived in Milwaukee all my life. The first house I remember living in was up on 72nd and Sheridan, off of Silver Spring. I went to MPS for the first, from like K4 to like the middle of the 6th grade. And then I went to a different middle school out in Fox Point before my mom moved to Wauwatosa, where I went to high school there for the 4 years. And yeah, that's pretty much who I am. I'm just your friendly local journalist.
You've done a lot of stories in Tulsa.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to be a journalist?
Yeah, it's kind of a funny story. For a long time, I actually wanted to be a biologist. I really loved like reptiles and frogs and stuff like
dope.
that. Yeah, when I was a kid.
That's dope.
Yeah, and kind of a funny story, like the park that Jay Anderson Jr. was shot in. Actually, I used to go there all the time as a kid and catch snakes. So in the tall grass that's right there. So it's like I wanted to do that for a long time. I wanted to be like the next Steve Irwin crocodile hunter kind of guy. I used to always
That's
read.
cool.
Yeah, you wouldn't expect, right? Like I always read field guides and stuff like that. And then, senior year of high school came around, and I've always been really bad at math and stuff. And I took AP biology, and the first half of it was good. And then the second half of it was like all these weird equations and stuff. I didn't know what to do with it. And just kind of like, well, this is what I have to deal with, and I don't want to do this.
Right.
That's a huge chunk of it, too.
Yeah. So I was watching on Netflix this documentary. It was a documentary about cannabis. It was called The Union. Cannabis is weed or marijuana for what people don't know. But yeah, it was a documentary about cannabis and legalized cannabis and stuff. And I was watching that and I was like, wow, like this guy actually had to travel all these places and film all this stuff and talk to all these people. And even if he doesn't get paid a lot, he still got to go to all those places. And then I was like, and I always made videos, like music videos for like video games I liked when I was a little kid and stuff like that. So and I loved writing and journaling, so I already had that kind of foundational skill. And then I saw another documentary about a band that I would listen to, Nirvana, that was about it was called Kurt and Courtney, and it was about kind of the death of the lead singer, Kurt Cobain, and kind of the questions around that, right? And it was like this really rugged, handheld looking film, right? So I was like, well, I could do something like that. This is on Netflix. I could do something like that. And it was really cool. It was from the 90s. It had this really cool look to it. And at the same time that I was seeing those documentaries, the Wauwatosa Police Department was kind of honing their focus on teenagers in the area, specific groups of teenagers, and not necessarily even on a racial standpoint anymore. It was more so like, do you look like you're kind of like a party kid, or do you look like you might be smoking weed in the woods, or that kind of thing? And it stopped, like you started to hear stories about like blonde-haired, blue-eyed white girls with dyed hair getting stopped and frisked, like it's the mid 2000s and the Milwaukee North Side, and the same tactics were being expanded, right? And I kind of knew that if someone didn't film that or do something about it, then it would kind of just disappear. It would be stories we told each other.
Right.
So I got a Sony Handycam, which is like a really cheap camera. My mom got it for me for Christmas, and then ironically enough, the school's media communications class also had one. Same one, right? So I had that, and then I had the YouTube video editor, which was extremely frustrating and limited, but because I was creative, I was able to make it work for me. For example, the number of cuts you can make in a clip, it was really, really limited. Basically, you can only make videos so long or whatever. So I kind of figured that, okay, well, what I can do is if it's limited, then I can just bring it up to that limit, publish it, lock it up so that no one sees it, and then bring it back into the editor and do that over and over and over again. And out of that, I made a 2-hour documentary about the Tosa PD. So I was like, wow, that's cool. So I can do that, put it on YouTube. And then I tried to go to college, tried UWM and tried MATC, and it didn't work out.
Me too.
Yeah, yeah. Life's crazy, isn't it? Personal reasons, financial. Yeah, but so the college thing didn't work out, but it's whatever, because I was kind of like, well, journalism is kind of the thing where I could just work at it. I don't really, sure, like, you can get a journalism degree, or you could just get out there and get your own story. It's not like a biologist where you need the degree, you know what I mean? Like a kind of thing. So that's kind of how that whole thing kind of evolved for me. And just like what David was saying, obviously we have a lot of resources at our disposal as young people. So when I made Speak Friend and Enter, which is the Tosa PD documentary, when I made that, I graduated in 2014, so filming probably started in like the summer of 2013, like around then. So it's like Sony Handycam and free video editing software that was provided by YouTube, and an idea, and like a kid with an idea, and that's all that it took, to kind of make that, and that's kind of something that anyone can kind of do, if you have kind of like the want.
Yeah. So did your school, did they allow you to use their camera as well?
Yeah, eventually. Yeah. Miss Beeble, she was really cool.
Shout out to Miss Beeble.
Yeah, Jean Beeble, she was really cool. Miss Beeble, I actually ended up making a really early version of the documentary as like a final exam project for MediaCom class. So yeah, she let me use the Sony Handycam and stuff and other stuff like that. So I had people to support me, and also, it becomes like a community kind of effort too, because when I had to make that film, I was kind of more or less kind of like a nobody kind of kid. I wasn't that popular or whatnot. So I had to kind of find a way to kind of introduce myself to these kids, and some of them were the so-called cool kids or whatever. So it's like, it's hard. They're like they're unapproachable, and Tosa, it's like birth to graduation. So it's like so tight knit that there are kids who have baby pictures with each other who are going to parties with each other in college. It's not really quite like that in Milwaukee, the Milwaukee school system, because it's a bigger school system. So it's like coming from Milwaukee into Tosa, you're the outsider coming in. So, it became this kind of thing where there's this issue going on that is affecting people, and there are people who are afraid to openly talk about it and have their faces known and stuff like that, but they're willing to help you or go on camera if you're willing to protect their identity, and then introduce you to other kids who are willing to help. So it kind of became this kind of a community effort. It was my project, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without a lot of kids kind of participating and helping and going along with it.
That's dope.
You've done a lot of work in Tulsa.
Yeah. So, Tosa PD, what's that say? Movements have always been young people led and driven. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it takes a new idea or a new mind to kind of push the envelope sometimes,
Yeah.
But yeah, a lot of work on Tosa. Yeah. So that was kind of like the first thing I did, and, during that time what are your recent experiences you both have faced when it comes to people attacking you for speaking the truth, and how have you handled that?
That's a good question, Darius.
That's a good question.
Yeah, I can answer that a little bit. I don't actually get a whole lot of hate mail. Actually, I don't get a whole lot of hate mail at all. I get kind of like sometimes people who disagree and who I may disagree with them too, and they kind of, especially when it comes to the protests, but I don't get a whole lot of hate mail. I got quite a bit of hate mail.
Jessica McBride reach out to you at all? Because she combated the stories of the People's Revolution that came.
No,
exactly. A lot of the story.
Okay.
I haven't heard from her, and I'd like.
She messing with you. You let me know.
No, I'd like to keep it that way. That she leaves me alone. Hopefully that. I mean, like, I think that with journalists, I would like to think that with Jessica, we can just kind of leave between, like, we could just kind of say, like, like, we're just two journalists at two different outlets who have two different flavors of reporting, I guess.
Mhm.
And
Absolutely.
she can have her domain and I can have my domain. I don't have to, you know, we don't have to kind of like have that kind of cross exchange, you know. But no, I haven't heard from her. I haven't heard from any of their supporters. I haven't heard from any of their supporters or anything. I will say though that there are times when there's police activity that makes me think and question. You know, like I go to an activist's house, a couple of key activist houses. Like, say if I go over someone's house who's a key activist in the area, I come home. Right now, I live near West Dallas. West Dallas PD circling my block for 2-3 days. They don't really do that. Stuff like that. I've had at least one Trojan computer virus kind of hit my computer in a really weird way. My computer blocked it, thankfully, but you know, there's that. I haven't really been followed or anything, and that's all really like since like the 2020 protests. Now when I first put out the documentary, on Tosa PD, because that took about 3 years actually fully complete. I was working 2 jobs at the time. I was working at Toppers as a delivery driver, and I was working at a cafe, Toppers in Tosa, and freelancing. And I, you know, there were a couple. So documentary hits. It's on YouTube. It's surging. It got like 2,000 views in a day or something like that. And I just noticed a Tosa PD SUV just kind of around, you know, just behind me. You know, when I was doing my deliveries, taking the same turns or flicking their brights on and off so that I look behind me in the rear view and I'm not focusing on the road. So I don't know if they're trying to make me you know, mess up, or I don't know what the point of it is. I don't even know. Sometimes you just wonder if it's even in your head or not. I mean, that kind of thing. But I mean, there have been plenty of times where you've been following and stuff like that. That kind of stuff doesn't really bother me as much though, because frankly, I'm a journalist. Our activities are protected by the First Amendment of the Constitution of these United States.
Say that.
And
That's freedom of speech, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And freedom of speech, and also
and freedom of the press,
and specifically freedom of the press. You know, we as the press are listed specifically in the Constitution. The police are not. And you know, this is America, and like I said, we have those rights. And you know, if you're just gonna trail my house or poke at my computer, good luck. It won't. I take precautions, so I make them work for their meals. You know what I mean? But
and you can write about them.
But generally, you know, generally, they're to answer his question, you know, they're it tends to be pretty tame, and it tends to be just kind of like just a shadow. There isn't a whole lot of like harassment that's made me feel really personally threatened. More so, just like, look at that. I wonder what that is. Or I'm not stupid. I know what that is.
So when your friends are telling you all these stories, we are not making it up. This is actually happening.
He said both of y'all, you know what I'm saying? So like what
So you want to see yours is a little bit more intense.
Listen, where do we start? I mean, what's interesting is I have been involved in real controversial issues, right? Like, and things that I fought for over the last 9 years, being elected. When you start fighting for Black people and
tell them,
and actually demanding like real change to make a shift, in accountability, a shift in how things work, it gets under their skin a little bit different. So, you know, death threats, got those. You know,
ain't nobody gonna touch you though, cousin.
Nah, not at all. Not at all.
Death threats.
Oh my!
Not the God I serve. You know what I'm saying? So, but Darius was talking about like facing the attacks. You know, we have whole police departments making up records.
What?
As if, you know, State Representative David Bowen is a criminal. That's never happened. I've never been arrested.
What? What?
No, never been booked in any of your police departments or any other police department for
Say
that,
that.
for that matter.
Despite the booking number.
Say that.
You know, so
Listen.
now they're desperate, and they're desperate because y'all won't stop fighting for change.
Mhm.
We have not stopped fighting for change. We were supposed to give up and just be mad for a couple months, get it out of our system,
Mhm.
and then like go back to regular life.
Yeah.
Want to go to the movies,
Mhm.
want to go kick it,
Mhm.
want to go a party, and like feel comfortable again. Go to Christmas, buy presents, help the economy, everything get back to normal again.
Forget.
It got cold. It was supposed to be too cold to protest, too cold to fight for justice anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's
Listen.
what some of it.
Hand warmers,
It's
toe
because
warmers.
people haven't stopped. And you know, when I have a police chief that opposes even like the hint of reform,
Mhm.
has an officer that's killed 3 people,
3.
he's never corrected him, reprimanded him. He pretty much appreciates his actions.
He's a hero.
He gets mad at me for calling out the truth
The audacity.
that the officer has a history of lying, that he can't be trusted,
And he needs to.
and that
Sit your dumb ass down and shut up.
and that this chief himself has never used his position correctly
Right.
to make sure his own police department is being run the right way. So, you know,
People crazy.
it's these attacks are like probably the craziest that I've seen, the biggest that I've seen. But there is a level of comfort even in those storms, because especially when I can tell, like, you know, y'all really reaching right now, but there's nothing there. So, you know, I take them on, and then what they want to have happen still don't happen. They wanted me to like lose my elected position. That still didn't happen.
That's
You wanted
not
me to
gonna
shut
happen.
up. That didn't happen.
That's not
So-
gonna
So, you know, I can weather those storms. So, Darius, I think you got a good point.
And
So-
you know, if I could just add really quickly, you know, right now, you know, I'm at a more established. Well, you know, the Wisconsin Examiner is a new outlet. We're not even 2 years old yet, but it is it's more established and kind of getting a name for itself. And there's just 5 of us who work at the Examiner, and besides myself, there are others who have like my bosses and some of my colleagues have established kind of careers of their own, you know, and cred, right? That being said, when you are a freelancer and when you don't kind of have that kind of attachment to or a home to an outlet, there is a bit more risk that you put yourself that you expose yourself to. You know, as you were talking, I recalled when I was a freelancer, you know, there was one time that you know, my tires were popped and that morning I was going to go actually get a dash footage from the Jay Anderson shooting. So this is actually kind of an interesting story. So, you know, I go outside, I'm going to pick up the dash footage that day. It's like, it's different versions of the footage and etc. This was like a year or so. This was like months after the case had already been cleared, right?
Okay.
And you have to request it from the Milwaukee PD because they investigated it and et cetera, et cetera. So I walk outside, and the parking lot at that particular apartment building was kind of an open parking lot. Anyone can kind of park in there. I go outside, I roll out, and I'm dragging. I go out, I look, tires pop. So I know a guy who owns a tire shop. I limp my car up there, and one of his employees comes back and he says, "Hey man, you got any enemies?" And I'm like, "No, why? What's that?" He's like, "Man, it's a knife, Holmes. Someone popped your tire with a knife, Holmes." Whoa.
Is
You know,
that
and yeah, and
Sound like
you know,
Kenosha.
so what you gotta understand though,
What?
but you gotta understand.
PTSD to this
Sound like
day.
Kenosha.
But you gotta understand though. So what that did,
Mhm.
first off, and then I vaguely remember an MPD squad being in the lot because they would always sit in the lot. But if I saw it that day, I wouldn't have paid attention, right?
Because they're always there.
And then after that, I waved and they stopped waving. You know, before they would wave, and after that day, I would wave and they would just kind of look. So you know, but what that did, first off, first off, that $75 that I had to pay for the open records. First off, I can't go to get the open records that day. That $75, I have to pull that out of broke pockets working at a pizza delivery joint to get that footage. Now I have to do it to get my tires fixed.
Right.
So then I have to, and I still have to pay bills and etc. So then when I finally get the $50, $75, whatever it was, to actually come back around and get it, all of a sudden the video isn't available anymore. They sent it back or whatever. So then I have to re-request it and and that's if you have the balls to do that after your tires get popped with a knife. You know what I mean? So you know, and then I request it. I wait months and months. All of a sudden, they don't have the video. I can't get it. You know, so you know, pointing that out just as a freelancer, that's the kind of thing that freelancers sometimes deal with when you're dealing with when you're covering kind of sensitive stories like that. On top of that, you know, let's say, you know, you do all that, you put yourself at that kind of risk. Oftentimes as a freelancer, your articles don't get noticed, and then sometimes they do, but then a bigger news outlet, usually local ones, pick it up. They don't source you, they don't offer you a gig or anything like that. So it's like, this isn't to be like a pity party. This is to be like, you know, that's not just me. You know, those are presumably there are other freelancers in the area who want to do especially critical police reporting and critical you know, reporting that's critical to the government, and those kinds of things can happen regardless of who's ultimately responsible for like popping the tire. The chilling effect is there. The financial reallocation of my funds is there, you know, and ultimately I couldn't get that video. So it's like, you know, and then there's little reward almost. So it's almost discouraging. You go through all that and then you finally get something to pop, but it doesn't really pop because someone takes it from you. You know, so speaking it from a journalistic standpoint, you know, like when you're a freelancer, you, like I've said it 4 or 5 times already, but that's the kind of risk that you kind of open yourself up to, and some of the things that you can sometimes experience, you know.
One of the viewers out here, Tiffany Henry, says, how important is it to share factual information regarding the movement and the actions of the Tulsa Police Department, especially after the attacks on Black Lives Matter movement as a whole?
Yeah, I'd say that especially the phrase factual information is really
emphasis on factual.
Yeah, really important, you know, because especially when you blend in emotion or feelings and you make it kind of an opinion, kind of like talking about from a journalistic kind of standpoint, when you're writing and when you're putting out information for people to make their own kind of informed decisions, when you put that in, when you put that kind of emotion or opinion or your own, or, you know, that kind of feeling in it, then it takes away from that factual, from like the factual, even if you have facts in there, there are people who may be inclined to disagree with you who are now definitely going to disagree with you because they sense the emotion in there.
Exactly.
So it is really important to say when the mayor being on a high value target list, or the so-called ghost arrest of David Bowen and others, particularly of Bowen, because some of the people, you know, you didn't receive a citation, like a ticket.
Nope.
No ticket, no arrest, no nothing, just an entry in a system somewhere, you know? So it, you know, it is really important to kind of like put that kind of information out there in that format, because when it goes out, it's incredible. It's crazy. It's like, they're doing what? And then if you just have like the factual kind of perspective, you know, then without any real color in it that doesn't need to be there, then those people who are inclined to disagree with you, they're like, wow, that's really messed up. You know, this actually happened.
It's in black and white on the
and then black and white further, you know, you know, make it more black and white. Don't just put the factual information in there. Put the email in the article, you know, like you can do that now with technology. You know, it's not just newspaper. It's, you can flip through Detective Keck's emails talking about cell phones, you know, or whatever. So yeah, that's my response to that.
Yeah, and it's more important that the people that are going to read that will claim that, oh, that ended up not being true, right? So now I'm more reserved about if I should consider supporting either this movement or this issue, because now the things that have come out supposedly, now that's up in the air. But the truth is important. The facts are important.
You just recently broke a story though.
Yeah.
On the FBI. Somebody, what was the protesters? You rebroke the story on the FBI, bringing it back up to attention. A lot of people didn't ever hear that protesters broke into an FBI, a federal.
Oh, that,
building.
that was awesome. For anyone who wants to check that out, it's really easy. The documentary is called 1971. Just go to YouTube, type in 1971 documentary. It'll come up right away. Basically what the situation was.
You said, what is it again? 1971?
Yeah. Just type in 1971 documentary, and it'll definitely come up. And it's free, So what that situation was there was a group of, as far as any of us can really be certain, white anti-war activists who said, we would like to prove, we know that the FBI are surveilling us. We know there's agent provocateurs. We can see them, etc. We know this stuff is happening. And COINTELPRO, which was the counterintelligence program that the FBI ran under J. Edgar Hoover from like the 50s to the late 60s, early 70s. 1971 was when this break-in happened. So what these people did was they cased the FBI office. So back in those days, way before 9/11, there was federal FBI offices, and then there was smaller regional offices called what were they called? They were just regional, just these smaller regional offices. That was literally like just an office with a door, very little security, like besides court security or something. Like you could just lock the door, like unlock it and etc. So what they did was they cased the place inside and out, so that they could know basically what to get in, like where to go, where the file cabinets were, etc. And they had a guy pick the lock, and they waited for the Muhammad Ali versus Ray Frazier, I think, fight, because everyone was going to watch that.
Joe Frazier,
the FBI agent who lived right below the office in an apartment. So they waited for that, and they used that as basically a diversion. They got in, they took a bunch of files, and through that they figured out that the extent to which COINTELPRO had gone, that meaning the FBI wanted an agent, not literally behind every mailbox, but they wanted protesters and people to feel like there was an agent behind every mailbox. They wanted, especially informants in Black communities, and then they mailed those documents to various news outlets, and only one of them, I believe it was the New York Times, actually wrote up the articles. The other news outlets sent the documents back to the FBI. Kind of fell in line, kind of like that. And this was kind of the first time in modern American history where a major news outlet had received stolen documents, like leaks. And the FBI was never able to find these people. They tried and tried and tried. They were never able to find these people. And these people lived until essentially the statute of limitations ran out. They're elderly now. One of them has passed away. And
it's interesting you brought that up because of the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, right? And highlighting how law enforcement agencies, police departments are weaponizing themselves, not against actually addressing crime, not against
the activists,
addressing the biggest ills of the community. They're weaponizing themselves against people protesting them, people protesting for change, people asking for them to change their practices and their protocols so that people could stay alive, so that communities can be respected and treated with dignity. So it's just funny that you highlight that, because I always knew they would try to flex on the young people that were here, that were standing up, advocating for change, and calling them to task on the decisions that they made. So I'm not surprised when I see like real evidence and just proven communications of them talking about people in the movement, talking about attempting to stop the protests and things of that nature, or to act like the protests are like some criminal organization.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, no, these are citizens. These are mothers, fathers, like family
Law-abiding
members.
citizens.
These are neighbors
Yeah.
who want to hold you accountable.
Right.
But because you stuck on stupid and like you feel like you have to stop them from demanding better from you, you're going to use your own department to try to stop them.
So, with dealing with like future generations, what is something you would tell future generations who want to be involved with the government and like politics?
I think your focus has to be much bigger than a title or a position. First off, sometimes we get caught into like the popularity or the cameras and being on the news and being out front more than actually what you are actually sent there to do.
Yeah.
People vote in an election because they believe in a candidate and their vision and what they're about to do with the actual position. Sometimes it's easy to get boggled down into the nonsense. But we have a real community that's waiting for some substantial change. We have folks from a generation where they had jobs that were walkable in this community. They had access to well-paying jobs, to say the least, and to be able to build their legacy. So one of the things I always highlight is, Seville Smith didn't get the chance to build his legacy.
Yeah.
That was ripped from him.
Right.
If you have a society and a community that allows that to happen, his life gets ripped from him, or his chance to be able to build a legacy gets ripped from him. But we have other citizens that are not put in that predicament. Matter of fact, they are supported to build their legacies in the state of Wisconsin or in the community or in the suburbs. And it's a completely different trajectory. So that has to be highlighted. And that can't be ignored. So if people are getting involved in politics for the wrong reasons, it's not that you really want to serve in politics, it's that you want to do something else.
Yeah.
And if you're going to play around with this,
Yeah.
go find a sandbox.
Yeah.
Go to Summerfest.
Right.
Go kick it. Go to a party.
Stop playing people lives.
Don't play with the mechanism to make change in our community because it's too serious. It's too many people dying. It's too many lives being lost, even outside of violence, where the trajectory of their lives are being shortened and prevented.
So, like, what is a way people can get involved and can support what you have going on?
I think the biggest way is to get involved. So, at the end of the day, we have a state budget. It's $70+ billion that the state has to make a decision on how to spend. That's money for your community. That's money for the whole state, all of our systems, all of our infrastructure. You want to influence that process. You want to say, hey, I believe the money should be spent this way. People don't know, like, it's one part to just engage in an election and vote, but it's another process and it's ongoing for you to actually give insight on what you want to see. If you want to redesign the system of public safety, and for instance, you don't have to have officers be called to every situation.
Absolutely.
Right? There are situations where it's probably better for somebody from the health department to just go handle it.
Or
Somebody
who
from
care, a neighbor.
right, a community-driven process to be able to handle certain things is possible. But we'll never be able to get there because, especially in government, people like just doing things the same. If you do things differently, that's more work. If you do things differently, like you're challenging how things were before, and I'm used to it and I'm comfortable. We don't get that luxury in our community. So yes, government should work for us. Yes, it should change, but it also has to be demanded and it has to be folks that actually will go to a public hearing, hear what they got to say, and give their insight, give their testimony, give their voice. Another part of the process is to get in the streets. There would be no progress, especially on this issue that you guys are fighting for, if it just looked like nobody cared. If it just looked like, it's only a few people talking about this.
Yeah.
Like, we can just shoot this away.
Right.
And even when they try to do that, y'all got so many people out there that like it brings backlash on them for not doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did at the state when the governor and the Black Caucus and members of the Democratic Party said, hey, we know y'all not on our side, but we propose these 9 bills. Let's at least hear them. Let's at least vote on them.
Mhm.
Let's at least give them a chance to be heard and let people give insight and, see what happens. Because then we could vote it. Y'all could vote it down.
Right.
They said you can't even get that. They ignored all 9 bills and then said, oh, we'll create this task force. So they created a task force on one side of the house, my side of the house over here. The Senate has no process. So it's great that we have a task force. It's great that we're sharing, but at the end of the day, we need action.
What day is that budget?
So the budget is being brought where you can give insight in like April and May.
Okay.
And then budget usually like finalizes near the end of the summer. But like it's important that you give insight. It's important that you keep up with the current events, keep up with what's going on. So actually be knowledgeable about the things that are happening and things that are being done. So that's what you ask what you could do. That's what you could do.
And then what are ways people can support you and what you have going on with the Wisconsin?
Well, sharing is caring. So,
Hit that share button.
hit that share button because, social media isn't exactly free, algorithms move things around and such. So it's really important to kind of click that share button. I think we also take donations too. I'm not exactly sure. But yeah, mostly sharing is caring because as a journalist, it's really just my job to provide
And get the story.
get the story out there and get information to the
You got
public.
a YouTube channel?
A YouTube channel,
yeah.
Wisconsin Examiner YouTube channel. You should just be able to type Isaiah Holmes on Twitter. I'm on there. And just share.
All platforms.
We're on YouTube, Facebook is the Wisconsin Examiner, and I'm on Twitter. So.
And then how can people follow you?
IG, Bowen for Action, Facebook, State Rep David Bowen. Also got my IG, Twitter. What's the other one?
Facebook.
IG, Twitter. Oh, I said Twitter is David F.
Are
Bowen.
you on Clubhouse?
I'm not on
Dang,
Clubhouse.
Are you on Clubhouse?
No,
I'm not on
it's,
Clubhouse.
I'm-
Should I be?
I'm-
Should I be on Clubhouse?
Like,
No,
y'all need
what
to
is
be on
that?
like, for
Okay.
real, for real. I'm
Alright.
gonna send y'all both some invitations. I feel like it'll be dope for y'all.
I'll check it out.
It is great for networking. What y'all trying to do, like that's a great platform for y'all. Speaking of like pretty much getting y'all names out there and everything, even like with your shares and even with people being more familiar with you guys, I know you mentioned something about egos. Like, how do you stay grounded and don't become like egotistical when things are starting to kind of work in your favor? People are starting to know who you are. How do you stay grounded in that?
Well, I don't know. I kind of had an interesting progression because when the protests first started, I could kind of go out, slip in and out covertly, and no one noticed me. And now people, I can barely poke my head outside my door and people know. So it's like, I don't know. I've just never really been like a really egotistical kind of person, but just kind of knowing that, just trying to stay humble and just appreciating how far I've come at this point, and just kind of, I don't know. I just take it a day at a time. I mean, like it wasn't that long ago that I was working at Toppers, not knowing what was next. So it's great to appreciate that kind of stuff and know that the story is bigger than you. So
Yeah.
that's.
I
how
remember
do it.
seeing you all the time, but I used to be like, I think he's hiding. So I don't think I should hug him. So I would just be like sneaking, like, oh, he didn't see me. It's okay. Until that one time I had saw you, and I'm like, oh, well then let me go talk because now we're alone. Like I don't, I felt creepy, but then I'm like, well, I usually feel creepier because I'm like, oh, he's hiding, but I'm gonna hide too, and I'm gonna wave. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't really know how to approach you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best way for me is to remember that like my faith is what drives me. So not that I have this perspective that it is me out front. It's really the calling on my life to be able to do what I do. Where it's just grace and mercy that allows me to be here. I'm really not supposed to be here. That's a funny thing. right? Like there are some people that have this whole thing mapped out.
Yeah.
They get connected to really big names or, people that have known them and people that they know for years. I came out of Burl Zoo. I came out
the
of
trenches.
Mary Ryan Boys and Girls Club. I came out of the North Central Y and was one of the kids, was just one of the young people. And it's so funny because like that's literally that's the opposite of politics. That's the opposite of how you would be able to get access to a position we get a chance to lead like this. So and I also remember that like, I'm not that big of a deal. I'm really not. Like, you know what I mean? Some people will geek your head
that's why
up.
we jam so tough, because it's like we know where we from, and it's like, but we here, but it's cool and all, but we know
We're just people.
Yeah, like we just people, but it's like we really not supposed to be here.
Right. So that keep me grounded.
Right.
And I'm around people that will bust my bubble if I would. You know what I mean? My head get that big.
All glory to who?
That's essential.
To God.
That's essential.
All glory be to God. But it's so funny because like the people I'm around keep it real with me. You know what I mean? Will shoot the shit with me. You know what I'm saying? They'll just keep it real.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm just a regular dude.
You DB.
I'm DB. That's it. That's it. And it's not about like popularity or money or like I would like to create a legacy that reflects change and us fighting for it. But it's bigger than me. And if you got a mindset that it is you, that's how you get big-headed.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks for tuning in.
See how they got the hoodies on? You can always purchase the hoodies and the shirts.
Can they see me?
And thank you to our guests.
Yes,
Thank
today
you so
we
much.
had
We are-
David Bowen and we had Isaiah Holmes
Isaiah
with us today.
Holmes.
It was good for you guys to come on and spread awareness
Appreciate
of what
y'all.
you guys got going on.
Follow
Appreciate y'all.
Revolution Ready. Y'all know what time
On
it
all
is.
Yes,
social
we are
media
on
platforms.
Facebook, Instagram, Twitter.
social media
We also on
platforms.
Apple Podcasts. Follow David Bowen. Follow Isaiah Holmes.
Appreciate
And this
y'all.
is where we liberate, educate, and demonstrate.
Demonstrate.
For
Y'all
to
have
be
a nice
revolution
night.
ready.